Olivia focused on the heavy textbooks at the top of the bookshelf behind Pamela. It was a shelf used by students to store their belongings while they ate in the cafeteria. If she concentrated hard enough, Olivia could send the books toppling directly onto Pamela. But before she could, Pamela stepped forward as her face fell into a scowl. "I am not constantly seeking trouble," she retorted with annoyance. "It is abundantly clear that Olivia," she thought, "is the source of my distress." "Aren't you?" Olivia sneered. "No, and stop trying to deflect." Pamela dismissed Olivia's attempts to change the subject. She couldn't be bothered to argue over trivial matters and demanded, "Are you going to stop being class president and let someone else do it while you focus on improving your abysmal grades or not?" "What do you think I'm going to do?" Olivia found it amusing. "Seriously, do you really think I'm going to hand off the class presidency to a person who couldn't even get elected the first time? To someone our class never wanted in the first place?" Pamela's eyes flickered with anger before she readjusted and then confidently asserted, "So then what are your plans?" "What do you think they are?" Olivia leaned back, raising her chin in a haughty manner to match Pamela's demeanor. "What gives you the right to come over here and question me?" Pamela shook her head in frustration. How could Olivia maintain such arrogance despite her lackluster performance? "Pamela, if you're having a conflict with your boyfriend Phil or something, and you're projecting onto me, I kindly ask that you settle it privately without involving me." Olivia's lips curled into a sly smile. "Or if this is PMS or something, you should really make your way to the school nurse after leaving the cafeteria, instead of pretending to be in charge here." Pamela's face flushed upon hearing Olivia's remark. How dare she utter such words in the cafeteria, with everyone around? Olivia was beyond shameless. "I simply don't have the time to hear all your gripes every time I sit down to eat," Olivia disdainfully remarked. "If you need assistance, maybe talk to our homeroom teacher, Adam. Although, I guess you're probably nervous to talk to him about your problems since you seem to have a crush on him, don't you? But please refrain from disturbing my lunch, all right?" Pamela couldn't believe Olivia was bringing up all the stupid rumors swirling around about her. And in front of the new kid, Chris Jones, too. "I'll never forgive you for this," she thought, eyes narrowing. But she was too heated to say anything in response at first. She just stammered about for a couple of minutes. Finally, Pamela slammed her palm onto the dining table, causing a commotion and startling those around her who were eating. Disregarding everyone's reactions, she exclaimed, "Olivia, I made myself very clear. I believe your current academic performance is unsuitable for the role of class president, and I think you should give up the position." "And I already told you it's not for you to decide whether it's suitable or not," Olivia retorted. "Are your grades exceptional? What is your ranking?" 27th place, Pamela proudly added. "I'm in the top 30. Psh! Millie burst into laughter upon hearing this. "I thought you had performed exceptionally well in the exams. You're acting like you're in the top spot." Pamela's expression changed upon Millie's comment. Millie was renowned as a prodigy, ranking as the top female student in Manhattan during the middle school standardized test. She was also widely acknowledged as the best student at Marshall High. However, Pamela perceived Millie as nothing more than a studious bookworm, not giving her much thought. "I wasn't talking to you," she retorted. "Good. Then you'll understand that we have no interest in talking to you either." Olivia smirked. "Now could you kindly keep quiet and return to wherever you came from, and don't engage in conversation with us anymore, all right?" Pamela felt humiliated as Millie and Olivia had publicly ridiculed her in front of so many people. Her face reddened, and her tone grew rude. "Olivia, you're barely passing in your studies," she yelled impulsively. "What right do you have to be so arrogant?" Under different circumstances, Pamela would never utter such words, mindful of her flawless image, but she couldn't help herself right now. At that moment, Francis, who had just finished his meal and was about to leave the cafeteria, overheard Pamela's words and halted in his tracks. Disgust flickered across his face. He despised such pretentious behavior from students here. God, This school is full of people who are obsessed with looking down on people based on their grades, he thought. What's wrong with being second to last in the middle of the semester? Do I not have time to improve? Olivia stood up, meeting Pamela's gaze head-on. Even if I ranked last, I would still be myself. I've always been confident, and I'm certainly not going to let someone like you hurt my feelings or make me try to question myself. Olivia was proud of herself. This new version of me in this life doesn't back down or let others walk all over me, no matter what my external circumstances are. I won't be hampered by a bad grade or bad ranking. I'll be unflappable, and I'm confident I will improve and achieve all the goals I was clearly brought back to achieve. What can you possibly do to me? She challenged Pamela. Well, Pamela was momentarily overwhelmed and rendered speechless by Olivia's imposing demeanor. This unexpected turn of events had thrown her off. She had figured that Olivia would have felt ashamed and apologetic, and would willingly relinquish the position of class president. How could it have turned out like this? Pamela wondered. Pamela, how are my exam results even relevant to you? Did I prevent you from achieving first place or impede your college applications or something? Olivia coldly scoffed. Whether I remain the class president or not has nothing to do with you. Pamela stifled her anger, unsure what to say. If it weren't for Olivia's scheming, she would have been the class president, and Pamela was still bitter about that. The role rightfully belongs to me, she thought. It was Olivia who connived to snatch it away. In fact, based on the midterm exam results, Millie would actually be the appropriate candidate since she's ranked first in our class and not you, Olivia remarked. She found it amusing how confident Pamela was. In her previous life, she had admired Pamela's self-assuredness, but now it seemed like nothing more than narcissism. See, Pamela, no matter how you calculate it, you have no right to slam the table and come over here all upset and challenge me. You understand? Pamela choked, unable to utter another word. Everything had gone completely awry. This wasn't part of her initial plan. It was all wrong. What had gone so terribly amiss? I know you're dissatisfied, Olivia said with an amused smirk while reading Pamela's thoughts. She was relishing Pamela's anger. How about in our next class, we conduct an anonymous vote with everyone? We'll give the entire class 10 minutes to cast their votes to see if they'd like you to be their new class president, Olivia suggested, crossing her arms in front of her chest. You don't object to this, do you? Pamela, on the verge of agreeing, instinctively bit her lower lip, a familiar gesture she used to restrain herself from making impulsive decisions. The situation she found herself in right now differed so greatly from her initial predictions that she worried an anonymous vote would also not go her way. If a vote were conducted right now, her chances of winning wouldn't be particularly high. Olivia had been the class president for over a month, and Pamela didn't want to take such a risky path. Besides, if the vote proceeded, it would make everyone in the class aware of her strained relationship with Olivia, which could tarnish the perfect image she was trying to maintain for herself. She couldn't afford to be so impulsive. Without a guaranteed victory, it might jeopardize the reputation she had been meticulously trying to cultivate over the years. With these thoughts racing through her mind, Pamela clenched her fists and underwent a drastic change in attitude. She first offered an apologetic smile and then spoke softly. I didn't mean it that way. She looked around. Maybe I was being a bit impulsive just now, and I failed to express my views clearly. Witnessing Pamela's astounding acting skills, even Olivia couldn't help but applaud inwardly. Wow, Olivia thought, you are really trying. I guess I was just concerned about your academic performance, since I see you as a friend and I look up to you. Pamela feigned concern, masking her true intentions. I merely wanted to motivate you to study harder. Perhaps my tone was too stern, but my intentions were good. Wow, what a crock of BS, Olivia thought. But she smiled, going with it, because it amused her to see Pamela back down so quickly. For a fleeting moment, Olivia couldn't help but think that the hurt she experienced from Pamela in her previous life wasn't entirely unfortunate. I guess I was just doing this for the sake of our classmates. I thought for a second, maybe the class president should lead by example, so we could all excel together. Pamela held Olivia's hands. But if my words were too harsh, please don't take them to heart. It was as if Pamela desired to play the role of a benevolent matriarch suddenly, and Olivia couldn't help but smirk. I don't enjoy listening to your lies, Olivia whispered, swiftly pulling away from Pamela's grasp. Olivia's voice was resolute. Pamela, remember this. I know what you're trying to do, and I know you're a social climbing calculated mess of a person. But you need to think twice before you ever approach me acting all arrogantly and aggressively ever again. I'm not, Pamela attempted to deny it, but was once again interrupted by Olivia's cutting words. I'm not okay with it, Olivia said coldly. This is the cafeteria. If you wish to embarrass yourself, feel free to do so. However, publicly mocking my exam results to display your generosity and nobility, or whatever you're trying to do, isn't going to fly with me. You misunderstood, Liv. Pamela's words were cut short as Olivia interjected once more. Don't call me Liv. We're not that close. Olivia's interruption was firm. We're just classmates. And don't attempt to teach me a lesson or give me advice either. You're not qualified. She paused after each word for deliberate emphasis. Olivia spoke so sternly and quietly, eyes locked with Pamela, that Pamela found herself unable to speak. Even though no one could hear their exchange, Pamela felt like Liv was trampling upon her dignity and embarrassed her in front of everyone. Pamela tried to clear her throat and say something, to try to get some of her dignity back, but Olivia interrupted her again. I've lost my appetite. I'm going to go. Olivia brushed off Pamela's attempt to speak and walked away. Millie, Wendy, and even Chris Jones immediately rose from their seats and followed suit, leaving Pamela standing awkwardly in place. The scrutinizing gazes of those around her cemented Pamela's decision. From now on, she vowed never to step foot in the cafeteria again, not even once. Francis cast one final glance at Pamela before shifting his attention to Olivia's retreating figure. He thought, this class president appears to be unlike any I've encountered before. Thoughts of the bet he and Olivia had made crossed Francis's mind, and he curled his lips. Regardless, I won't allow myself to lose in our little VR game challenge. Jeremy, who was eating near a column, narrowed his eyes. He had been captivated by the spectacle he witnessed. Shaking his head, he took another bite of his now cold food. He couldn't afford to get entangled in such petty disputes between classmates. But he also couldn't deny that he was intrigued by Olivia and her ability to shake Pamela to her core. Jeremy's lip curved into a smile. Her quick wit, confidence, and unique style couldn't be denied. Olivia stood out from the crowd and possessed a certain allure. I'll have to keep an eye on her, he thought. There's something interesting about her. Word of the cafeteria incident between Pamela Cox and Olivia Johnson quickly spread, and rumors circulated throughout the school about how Pamela tried to bully Olivia over her class ranking. While no one openly expressed their opinions, Pamela's actions didn't sit well with them. Pamela, meanwhile, regretted her impulsive behavior, but also silently wished she had been more prepared to deal with Olivia, so she didn't end up looking like the loser in their fight. In the afternoon, the last 10 minutes of their final class was dedicated to organizing and preparing the classroom for the upcoming parent-teacher conferences that were scheduled for 5 o'clock that evening. Liv, is your father attending the conference tonight? Wendy asked while arranging tables and chairs. My father said he's got some business meetings that could run late, Olivia replied, so I called my mom and she'll be coming instead. Oh, yay! Wendy said with a smile. My mother will also be there. Let's have dinner together afterwards tonight. Okay, Olivia smiled. The two single mothers and their daughters would have a great time together. They shared commonalities and had a good rapport. However, they hadn't dined together in quite some time, not since middle school, in fact. Who will be coming from Millie's family, I wonder? Wendy inquired. Me? Millie hesitated for a moment before a hint of disappointment flickered across her face. No one from my family will be attending. They're all quite busy. Oh, Wendy nodded understandingly. That's normal too. My mother is always busy and rarely attends my parent-teacher conferences. Millie, come and have dinner with us later, Olivia invited. No, thank you, Millie declined with a smile. I'll be heading home after school. I have some matters to attend to. Oh, okay, Wendy nodded. Olivia wondered what mysterious thing Millie had to do instead of dinner, but when she tried to read Millie's thoughts, Millie didn't let on. In fact, Millie just kept thinking, please don't ask me anything else. So Olivia respected her good friend's privacy and dropped the subject. While Olivia spoke with her friends in class, her father finished up a meeting at his headquarters in Manhattan's financial district. After seeing his clients out, he asked his department heads, "Is there anything else that needs my attention?" And the department heads exchanged glances, indicating that there was nothing else. Then we'll conclude the meeting here then, Michael announced, taking a deep breath. Everyone, make sure to get some rest this weekend. Next Monday, submit a preliminary proposal for the new Biltmore project and for the Lane Hospitality build. Understood. Everyone nodded. Let's adjourn the meeting. Michael felt a tinge of exhaustion. As he watched everyone leave, he stretched his shoulders and asked his most trusted personal driver/bodyguard, Morris, do you have any other plans for later this evening? There are no more work-related activities scheduled after your final meeting in a few minutes. Morris glanced at his watch and replied, But Miss Olivia... Michael looked up at Morris, inquiring, What's the matter with Liv? 2 days ago, Miss Olivia informed me that her school would be holding a parent-teacher conference at 5 o'clock this afternoon for juniors. She asked if you had any free time. Since I wasn't sure about your schedule, I told her to ask you directly, Morris explained. Didn't she inquire? Oh, yes, I suppose she did, Michael realized with a sudden recollection. Olivia had indeed approached him earlier to inquire about his availability on Friday afternoon, but he had thought his schedule would be too packed. He smiled, thinking fondly of his daughter asking him. In Michael's heart, Olivia truly was a good child, especially after the incident with buying a school bag for Monica. The scales in his heart began to tip in Olivia's favor. Morris, what time is it now? It's 3 o'clock, Morris replied. Your last meeting is in 30 minutes and should only be an hour. Michael nodded. Great, I'll handle that. Afterwards, pack up. If there's any phone calls after my last meeting, have my assistant decline them. This evening, I will attend Liv's parent-teacher conference. Michael straightened his tie. As a father, he should take on more responsibilities. As the final school bell rang at 3:30 p.m., Olivia meticulously packed her belongings and slung her bag over her shoulder. Then she and her friends went off campus to shop for a little at Millie's aunt's store before returning to meet Wendy and Olivia's mom back at school. At the school gate, Wendy warmly welcomed Victoria and Desiree when they arrived for the parent-teacher conferences. The two old friends hadn't seen each other in a long time, so they engaged in a lively conversation as they made their way to Olivia's classroom. Observing her daughter's desk, which was placed towards the back of the classroom, Victoria couldn't help but worry that Olivia might have difficulty seeing the blackboard. However, Olivia reassured her that seat selection was determined by drawing lots, and she didn't want to make a fuss about it. Mom, Wendy and I will wait for you and Desiree in the corridor during the parent-teacher meeting. After you both come out, let's have dinner together, Olivia suggested. Okay, Victoria replied with a smile. Also, you look stunning today, Mom. A true embodiment of a professional. Olivia sincerely complimented her mother. Victoria typically dressed modestly, but she had made a special effort for the parent-teacher conference. She had come straight from work, wearing a gorgeous light blue pantsuit and a tasteful scarf. Her makeup was flawlessly elegant. Among all the parents present, Victoria exuded the most impressive image and demeanor. Oh, thank you, sweetie, Victoria smiled. She had intentionally dressed up for the occasion, hoping to leave a favorable impression on Liv's teacher. Parents were often compared to one another, even if it was done silently. Victoria didn't want her daughter to feel embarrassed by her appearance. At that moment, Olivia's phone vibrated inside her school bag. She smiled at Victoria, retrieved her phone, and answered the call. Hello? Liv, I'm waiting at the entrance of your school. Come and meet me so you can show me to your classroom, Michael proudly announced on the other end of the line. He wondered if his surprise would make his daughter happy. Huh? Olivia was momentarily taken back. Then her beautiful eyes sparkled as an idea sparked in her mind. She smiled and replied, Okay. When Olivia hung up, Victoria noticed her daughter suddenly lighting up and inquired, What's the matter? Oh, it's nothing. Olivia blinked and said, Mom, wait here for me. I need to pick someone up. Okay, go ahead. Victoria assumed Olivia was assisting a classmate and waved her hand before turning to continue catching up with Wendy's mom. Olivia hurriedly dashed to the school gate and spotted Michael waiting there. He was donning an impeccably tailored Italian suit. Despite nearing 40, he maintained a remarkable physique and his usual air of confidence. He looked every inch the successful, high-achieving man he was. Dad! Olivia waved at him. Over here! Michael smiled and approached. Liv, hello! I'm so glad you could make it. Olivia shyly smiled. I didn't think you were able to. Me neither, he said, but I guess it worked out. Let's go. Lead the way to your classroom. We still have a little bit of time before it starts. Let me show you around the school, Olivia proposed, taking the initiative to link arms with Michael. Dad, this way. Naturally, Michael didn't overthink Olivia's intimate behavior. He simply believed that his actions were making his young daughter feel loved and cherished, and that brought him great joy. He happily accompanied Olivia on a tour of the school. Marshall High School boasted extensive state-of-the-art facilities that covered an entire New York City block. It took Olivia over 10 minutes just to provide a brief introduction to the essential buildings on campus. And as the scheduled start time for her parent-teacher conference approached, Olivia led Michael back to her classroom. Upon entering the classroom and approaching Olivia's seat, Michael was taken aback. Victoria, he thought, though he remained silent. He couldn't remember if his daughter had mentioned Victoria would be coming to her conference or not. He had been so busy with work, he hadn't thought much of it honestly. And for some reason, he hadn't considered that Victoria would be present. Victoria, too, was taken aback when she saw Michael and instinctively glanced at Olivia. Olivia immediately gestured to her and said, Mom, Dad came unexpectedly. I hope that's okay. It'd be great if you could both be here to hear how I'm doing. Oh, Victoria stammered. Although she felt somewhat helpless, she mustered the courage to be here and support her daughter. Michael hesitated for a moment and contemplated retreating. He and Victoria had been divorced for over a decade, and the situation felt very awkward. This was the first time they were face to face like this. Suddenly, they felt like the only parents in the entire classroom. Perhaps it was best if he left first. No, Olivia thought, reading her dad's thoughts. No, I want you both here now. Everyone, the parent-teacher conference is about to begin, Adam said as he entered, armed with a prepared script. Olivia was happy with his timing. Please have a seat and students, step outside. Dad, my deskmate's parents aren't here. Please sit over there with Mom. The conference is about to start, so hurry. Olivia urged Michael, leaving him no room to decline. All right. Michael could only occupy Jeremy's seat beside Victoria. Observing this, Olivia concealed her amusement and mirth as she watched through the glass partition near the back door. Liv, what are you looking at? Wendy inquired, curiously approaching. Wendy, it seems we won't be able to have dinner together tonight. Olivia pointed inside. The person sitting there is my father. Can you see him in Jeremy's seat? Your father? Let me see. Wendy eagerly leaned forward to catch a glimpse of Jeremy's seat. Due to the angle, she could only see his back, but she sensed his tall and imposing presence from here. Wow, he seems tall. Olivia giggled. I want to have dinner with my parents tonight. Oh, yes, you have to. Wendy wholeheartedly supported the idea. My mom and I will totally do our own thing. You guys totally need to have a family dinner. I agree. Olivia nodded, gazing at her parents once more. In her past life, she dared not imagine such a scene, her parents attending her parent-teacher conference together. It was an extraordinary, dreamlike coincidence. This unexpected happiness filled Olivia with immense joy. In stark contrast to Olivia's elation, her parents sat quietly, uneasily, both quietly thinking about how uncomfortable and awkward and unexpectedly nervous they suddenly both felt. Their unease persisted until Adam began the evaluations. When Victoria discovered that Olivia ranked second from the bottom of the class, her expression transitioned from disbelief to shock. She glanced at Michael with a mix of disappointment and blame. Michael, who found himself on the receiving end of his ex's piercing gaze, was at a loss for words. Why are you staring at me? Liv never had such poor grades when she was with me. If you're not treating my daughter well and not looking after her, then give her back to me, Victoria whispered. Her discontent was dripping with a tinge of annoyance. She needs to thrive under our care. Michael wanted to refute her claim, but upon careful consideration, he realized that maybe he hadn't been taking good care of Olivia if her grades were suffering this much. He was in the wrong in this regard and lacked the grounds to argue. In the end, he mumbled, I'm not returning her. But I will do better, Michael said quietly. Victoria's expression contorted into an unhappy frown. What happened to you? Michael retorted with equal displeasure. You haven't been good to Liv. Victoria expressed her dissatisfaction, convinced that Michael had failed to take proper care of Olivia. Perplexed, Michael questioned, What do you mean by not being good? Didn't I attend our daughter's parent-teacher conference just now? You still have the audacity to say that. Victoria was about to continue her rebuke when Adam intervened with a deliberate cough. Adam then directed his gaze at Victoria and Michael. Michael and Victoria, if there is anything to discuss, can we please do it after the parent meeting? I still have some important announcements to go through. Silenced by Adam's interruption, both Michael and Victoria refrained from speaking further. Aware of the other parents' stares, Victoria's face reddened. She'd never been reprimanded by a teacher during her own school days, let alone as an adult. Why was she now subjected to criticism at her daughter's parent-teacher conference? Reflecting on this, Victoria glared at Michael once again and muttered under her breath, It's all your fault. Michael was taken aback and left speechless. Why was he being blamed once again? Finally, at 6 o'clock, the parent-teacher conference came to an end after Adam concluded his remarks. Angrily, Victoria stood up and walked over to Adam, letting out a dissatisfied snort. With a gentle tone, she exchanged phone numbers with Adam and inquired about Olivia's situation and the reasons behind her poor exam results. Adam spoke highly of Olivia, expressing his satisfaction with her character. After praising her determination and goals, he explained, Olivia is a very intelligent student. Her recent grades were not up to par, and I believe it's due to her busy schedule and also, well, I do know she changed homes, so sometimes students have an adjustment period when they undergo big life changes. Adam spoke gently, sensitive to the fact that Olivia had left her mother's house. He was careful to tread lightly so as not to offend either parent as he spoke. If possible, I can arrange a tutor for her or enroll her in supplementary classes. She's quite enthusiastic and has expressed her desire to catch up and surpass her peers. It's commendable to have such ambition and determination. Victoria nodded as she listened to Adam's explanation. Well, I apologize for the trouble. It's no trouble at all, really. It's my duty. Adam smiled and nodded. As he looked at Victoria, He noticed the striking resemblance between her and Olivia. After coordinating the supplemental classes with Adam, Victoria and Michael walked out of the classroom and met Olivia in the corridor. Victoria looked around and realized her friend Desiree had already left with Wendy. Olivia explained that after Adam had praised Wendy's exemplary academic performance, Desiree wanted to celebrate her daughter's hard work by treating her to a nice meal. "Is Wendy still receiving tutoring?" Victoria asked. "Wendy has always attended supplementary classes, and she has a private tutor," Olivia replied. "That's pretty much the norm at all the private schools around here." "Is that so?" Victoria nodded thoughtfully. "Would you like to join the supplementary class?" "How about the one Wendy attends? I talked to Adam about enrolling you, but I can ask Desiree about it later, too." "I will find a tutor for you in a few days, too," Michael interjected. Olivia could see he was trying to show his concern for his daughter was equal to that of Victoria's. "In a few days?" Victoria pursed her lips. "Where were you earlier?" "I was busy," he admitted to neglecting Olivia's discipline, but was trying to rectify it. "Busy, busy. All you know is being busy," Victoria complained. "When aren't you busy? Even at home, you're busy." The very mention of this seemingly old topic enraged her. Michael wanted to argue, but he knew Victoria had a point. Still, while he was at fault for prioritizing work over his family, it didn't mean he wanted to acknowledge it in front of his daughter, or to Victoria for that matter. So Michael mumbled, "What kind of ability is it to dig up old grievances?" "You!" Victoria grew even angrier at his words, though she stammered for a few seconds before thinking better of getting more mad and accidentally swearing in front of her daughter. "Rift!" Olivia stifled her laughter behind her hand. When Michael and Victoria turned to look at her, she smiled and explained, "In the past, I've heard others say that my parents used to quarrel and bicker, but today I'm witnessing it firsthand. It's quite amusing." "How is it amusing?" "Oh, this is amusing to you?" both asked simultaneously, then looked at each other once more. Victoria was taken aback, glaring at Michael before turning away. Michael, being on the receiving end of her glare once again, shook his head helplessly but didn't turn away. The three of them fell into silence. No one spoke further. The silence persisted until finally Olivia said, "Would it be all right if we got something to eat, the three of us?" Her parents looked at her in shock, like they couldn't actually believe their daughter would dare ask them to be together for another second. "I'm serious," Olivia said softly, holding her ground. "Other kids get to see their parents in the same place all the time. I've never gotten a meal with the two of you together. And we never have to again if you don't want to. But it would mean the world to me to have both of you with me while we share a meal. Besides, I'll agree to go tutoring and you guys can help figure out my tutoring schedule and stuff. Don't you want me to have a good model for how relationships should look, even if you two didn't work out romantically?" Her parents eyed each other cautiously. Olivia did have a point, and she was quite persuasive. She smiled when she read their thoughts, and could see both of them were considering her request. "Please," she said once more, looking at both of them innocently. "We could get sushi. You both love sushi and it's quick." When she knew they were both going to say yes, Olivia smirked. This was a win she had never even dreamed of accomplishing in her past life, and it felt really, sublimely good. Olivia, Victoria, and Michael all arrived at Sushi Q 10 minutes later. Olivia invited Morris to join them for dinner in the parking lot, but he declined. He could sense how much Olivia was looking forward to the meal, and he didn't feel it was appropriate for him to impede on this special moment. Observing Morris's refusal, neither Olivia nor Michael said anything, and instead the three of them entered the sushi joint. The restaurant was bustling with people, and Michael managed to secure the last table in the corner near the French window. Once seated, Olivia promptly ordered the family sushi platter. Although the wait wasn't long, it felt quite unbearable for Olivia's estranged parents. She could see by reading their thoughts that both Victoria and Michael were uncomfortable, but Olivia was so overjoyed having both beside her that she hoped their own discomfort would dissipate once the food came. The surrounding tables were all occupied by families. Despite the noise, there was an air of warmth and harmony. Soon, the waiter placed a giant platter of sushi in the shape of a pirate ship in the center of the table. "Enjoy your meal," he said with a smile before darting off to another table. "Thank you," Olivia exclaimed. Her spirits lifted as she surveyed the many types of sushi laid out before them. "Mom? Dad? Let's dig in." "All right," Michael responded, and despite the slight discomfort, both he and Victoria picked up their chopsticks and began to eat. The flavors of spring and fresh yuzu and ponzu and soy and ginger in the restaurant proved delightful. As they indulged in their meal, the tension gradually dissipated. When Michael reached for a piece of spicy tuna, Victoria stopped him. "Don't you know you have a sensitive stomach? Why would you want to eat something spicy?" Upon hearing Victoria's words, Michael set aside his chopsticks and instead served himself some of the more mild pieces of sushi. The moment the words left her lips, Victoria felt she had said too much. She briefly felt awkward, but there were still a few words she needed to impart to Olivia. After a moment's hesitation, she turned to her daughter and said, "Liv, your father has a delicate stomach. Despite his fondness for spicy food, every time he indulges, he has to take a bunch of Tums to soothe his stomach. I remember one time when the medication failed to suffice, he even had to go to the hospital. You must remember to discourage him from eating spicy dishes at home." Victoria shot Michael a sidelong glance. "He has a terrible memory." "Okay," Olivia nodded. Although they had been divorced for over a decade, Victoria still remembered this detail, and Olivia found it touching. Michael couldn't help but feel a pang in his heart. He couldn't forget the time he had just married Victoria. He had consumed copious amounts of spicy boiled Cajun crab, but in the middle of the night, he neglected to take his stomach medication and ended up fainting. A few hours later, he woke up in the hospital. When he regained consciousness, he saw Victoria by his bedside, her eyes swollen from crying. Since that incident, he never dared to be too gluttonous again. Even though he had a genuine fondness for spicy food, he only indulged to a moderate extent, always mindful of the worries it caused her that night. She thought he had had an allergic reaction and feared he might never wake up. Olivia watched her father privately recall the incident and stifled a smile as she saw how fondly he thought of Victoria now. Afterwards, she could tell the atmosphere between the three of them was no longer as strained as before. Michael even wore a smile on his face, and Olivia began to share stories about school, aiming to keep this happy feeling between her parents going. This environment is far more pleasant than the frigid atmosphere inside Dad's mansion, she thought. Victoria found herself amused by Olivia's anecdotes, covering her mouth as laughter escaped. She even nearly choked and coughed a few times while laughing hard. "You're all grown up now. Can't you eat properly?" Michael teased Victoria after she choked one time. He even reached out to pat her back, helping her ease the discomfort. "It's nothing." Victoria waved her hand, still wearing a smile. Olivia watched her parents. They didn't even realize how quickly they'd fallen into their old teasing banter. They were sitting closer to one another in their booth now, hands hovering near each other, laughing, smiling. This, Olivia thought, is everything I've ever wanted. Now how can I make it last? After talking to Morris Pratt on the phone, Rachel was already filled with resentment. Michael had never attended Monica's parent-teacher conference, but now he went to Olivia's parent-teacher conference. This was too unfair. Of course, she also had to consider whether Monica's actions the other night had hurt Michael's heart and caused him to do this. Had Monica insulted Michael over his backpack choice earlier? Unsure, Rachel decided not to say anything, and also did not tell Monica about the parent-teacher conference. Instead, she offered to take Monica into the city so she could buy a new school bag for her daughter. It could also be nice to have a casual meal outside, Rachel smiled. How does that sound? If your father isn't going to treat you well, Rachel thought, then I'll just have to. Okay, Monica exclaimed excitedly. She quickly scurried upstairs to get ready and soon Aunt Lepar was driving them into the city. When they finished shopping, Rachel had no idea she would encounter the scene she did when she exited a particularly expensive store in Tribeca. As soon as she rounded the corner onto Sloane Street, Rachel checked her reflection in the glass window of a nearby sushi restaurant. "I look quite beautiful," she thought, admiring herself. Her hair was thrown up into a bun, and her crisp Chanel coat looked sophisticated and elegant. "Even when I throw an outfit together in minutes, I'm quite wonderful, aren't I?" She smiled to herself for another few seconds, and then turned her attention from her reflection in the glass and glanced inside the restaurant itself. She froze as soon as she did. "No," she thought. "No, my eyes are deceiving me. This can't be." There, sitting in a corner booth in Sushi Q, Rachel spotted Michael, Olivia, and Victoria. What the hell? Rachel thought. It was one thing for Michael to go to a parent-teacher conference for Olivia, but it was far, far worse for him to go with Victoria. And then, to have the audacity to go to dinner with her and Olivia after? And to make matters worse, they were all laughing. Michael actually looked like he was enjoying himself, like he was having fun with Victoria. No, Rachel thought, no, this can't happen. Pain, fear, jealousy, resentment. These complex emotions assaulted Rachel all at once, making Rachel almost lose control. Before Monica could see what Rachel was staring at, Rachel quickly grabbed her daughter's hand and dragged her from the building, hurrying her forward until they were at least 2 storefronts away from the sushi restaurant. I can't have Monica causing a scene and pushing Michael away from us even more than she already has, Rachel fretted, especially not when he's enjoying Olivia and Victoria's company so much right now. I can't have him compare me and my daughter to them. Shit, she thought. Shit! What am I going to do? Rachel worried as she dragged her daughter by the hand further down the street. Ow! Monica whined. So Rachel relinquished her hand. As Monica scowled, she asked, Mommy, what just happened? Why are you acting weird? Rachel didn't answer. She was too busy, lost in thought. I painstakingly planned to snatch Michael away from Victoria's side for years, she thought. I can't let them get back together. This is absolutely not possible. Even if he died, Michael could only die with her. No one could think of snatching away the man she loved the most. Rachel kept taking deep breaths to force herself to calm down. She dialed Michael's number. After the call connected, she asked in a gentle voice, Hey, honey, where are you? I'm eating. Michael did not expect Rachel to call at this time. He frowned. Seeing Michael's expression, Rachel's heart hurt again. He didn't mention Olivia or Victoria to Rachel. Why not? Oh, and when are you coming back? A little later. Michael looked at Victoria, who was chatting happily with Olivia, and then asked, Is there something you need? Nothing. Rachel's nails dug deep into her palm. Just be careful when you come back. There's construction on the highway. Of course, Michael said. See you later. After she finished speaking, Rachel hung up the phone and looked at the man she loved one last time. Rachel turned around and strode forward. Mommy? Mommy! Seeing Rachel walking very quickly, Monica almost immediately chased after her. Rachel said nothing as she trudged along, back towards her car. Then finally she said, Come on, let's go home. What about dinner? I thought we were going to eat in the city, Monica asked. Not anymore, Rachel sneered. Mommy! Monica looked at Rachel's expressionless face with some fear. She saw that her mom was walking faster and faster. Monica also panicked a little. Mommy! Mommy, I'm so scared! Mommy, slow down! Mommy! She suddenly stopped. The scene she just saw now kept flashing in her mind. Hatred spread in her heart. She would definitely not return Michael to Victoria. Even if she died keeping them apart, she would never let them be together. Mommy, I'm afraid. Monica's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Rachel with a trembling voice. You don't have to be afraid. Rachel looked at Monica and suddenly smiled. She reached out to touch Monica's face. Mommy will protect you well. No one can think of hurting you, and no one can think of snatching your father away from our side. Mommy, what does that mean? What are you going to do? Monica asked in a low voice. Rachel took out the Swiss Army knife that she had on her keychain and pressed the round button on the blade. The sharp blade bounced out, and under the night sky, the blade flashed with a frightening chill. Mommy, what are you doing? Monica was so scared. Rachel did not explain, but instead raised her hand and the knife landed on her left palm and forcefully cut it. The knife cut through the flesh on her palm and the wound split open neatly, and blood immediately gushed out. Mommy! Monica screamed. What are you doing? Call your father. Rachel's forehead was in pain, and the veins on her temples were also bulging due to the pain, but her voice was calm. Tell him that I accidentally cut my hand and went to the hospital in the city, and phone Ansel Parr to have him pick us up to take me there. Oh, okay. Monica's trembling hand reached for Rachel's bag. Rachel's bag was also covered with blood. Monica took out Rachel's phone and dialed Michael's number. When she said these words to Michael, Monica cried out in fear. After she finished speaking, Monica hung up the phone. Rachel comforted Monica. Mon, don't be afraid and don't cry. Rachel's gaze was firm. If you want to achieve your goals, you must make sacrifices. In order to keep Michael by her side, this little sacrifice was nothing in the scheme of things. Monica looked at Rachel with some fear in her eyes, as if today was the first time she really knew her mother. Michael was no longer in the mood to eat after the call with Monica. He stood up and said, Liv, we should leave. Olivia was a little puzzled. What is it? Your stepmother was injured and went to the hospital. Monica was so scared I could barely hear what she was saying, but it sounds serious. Michael frowned and said, Injured? Olivia said. What happened? She said she cut her hand. Michael explained. Olivia sneered in her heart. The timing of Rachel cutting her hand was very coincidental. I wouldn't be surprised if she did this on purpose, Olivia thought. They could not eat any more. After paying the bill, the three of them went to the parking lot. First, they asked Morris to drive Victoria home, and then Michael and Olivia went to the city hospital on 4th and Avalon. What was she doing all the way in the city and not home at the mansion? According to Ansel Parr, they were shopping for a bag for Monica when it happened. Olivia's eyes narrowed. That's very suspicious, she thought. That Rachel was so close while we all ate. I bet she was following us. I wouldn't put it past her. Olivia watched her father rush through paying the check in order to get out of the restaurant, and her heart sank. We were having such a good time, she thought. She could see her mom was thinking something similar. It makes sense, Victoria was telling herself, that he would need to cut this short to tend to Rachel. That's the nature of our relationship, I suppose. Always was, and always will be. No, Olivia thought. Her heart broke a bit seeing her mother's thoughts. No, things will be different going forward, she vowed to herself. Rachel is calculating, more calculating than I even gave her credit for. But she won't win ultimately. I'll figure out a way to outsmart her at every turn. Tonight, she proved she's willing to hurt herself just to keep my mom and dad apart. But that doesn't mean I can't still beat her at her own game one day. I just have to be smart. Presently, however, Olivia had to bid goodbye to her mother with a heavy heart. I know we have to cut this dinner short, but I really loved tonight, she told Victoria. Me too. Victoria smiled warmly. I really did too. Olivia could see she meant it. She saw her dad smiling wistfully too. We'll have to do it again, Olivia said softly. Michael nodded. That would be nice. As soon as the words escaped his mouth, however, he seemed to frown and turn back to the exit. Come, Olivia, we have an emergency to attend to. Olivia let out a sigh and then accompanied her father from the restaurant, taking one last long glance at her mother. What a fun night, she thought. What a pity we had to cut it short. When Olivia and Michael arrived at the hospital about 20 minutes later, Rachel's wound had just been treated and bandaged. A nurse was throwing away cotton balls and bleeding gauze. Doctor, how is she? Michael entered the room and asked worriedly. "The wound is very deep," the doctor cautioned. "She will need to keep an eye on it so it doesn't get infected." After exchanging more information with Michael, the doctor exited. Olivia quietly followed him down the hall. "Doctor, please wait a moment." "Hmm?" The doctor stopped walking and looked back at Olivia. "Hi, I just wanted to ask, did my stepmother's wound look like she accidentally got cut when cutting something?" After Olivia asked, she explained, "I am a little curious. Usually when you're cutting something, you cut one of your fingers, not your palm. And I know she was out exploring the city, so I didn't know what had happened." "Oh," the doctor explained. "I took a look at the incision. It doesn't look like an accidental incision. It looked more like it was cut open." The doctor made a vertical cut and said, "But this kind of incision is also present. It's so deep. Tell her not to hold things and cut them next time. It's better to put them flat on the table." "Okay, thank you, doctor." Olivia nodded, and her eyes flashed with anger. Turning around and returning to the examination room, Olivia saw Rachel leaning her head against Michael's shoulder with a weak look. The corners of Olivia's mouth curled up slightly. Rachel was really going all out. To be able to do such a vicious thing to herself was actually sort of impressive. Looking at Monica, who was still in shock, Olivia restrained her smile. "Why are you so careless?" Michael said sweetly while holding Rachel's wrist. Olivia could tell it pained her father to see her stepmother like this. He winced just looking at Rachel's bandaged hand. Judging by the bloody gauze, his wife had suffered a deep cut that ran the entire length of her palm. "It's fine." Rachel's voice was very soft and looked very weak. "I simply fell while we were walking because I was looking at my phone and didn't see a crack in the ground. And then I went to reach out in front of me. I suppose there was a shard of glass on the street, either from a car window break-in or from a broken bottle or something. They really ought to clean the streets more in Manhattan. I suppose that's why we don't live in the city. The suburbs where we are so much cleaner, thank goodness." "Dad, Mommy, I was so scared when I called you earlier," Monica sobbed, really hamming it up. "There was so much blood, and I was terrified she might faint. I heard that you were busy, so Mommy asked me to accompany her to the hospital." "Monica, don't say any more." Rachel motioned for Monica to stop talking. "You should always call me any time you are injured. I'll come from wherever as soon as I hear." Michael frowned slightly, and Olivia watched as a trace of guilt flashed across his heart and his thoughts. If it was not for Monica calling, would you have kept it from me? I called you because I was scared. Mommy didn't want me to tell you." Monica used the back of her hand to wipe her eyes, so she looked like she was still crying. "Mommy was afraid of interrupting your work, but she was clearly in so much pain, yet she didn't want to disturb you." Michael did not know what to say for a moment. "Rachel, you know this is more important, that I care about your health and well-being." "Sweetheart, don't worry, I am fine." Rachel was putting on quite an innocent act. "Don't listen to Monica. She only felt sorry for me and she was scared. I'm glad you're here now, though." Rachel snuggled into Michael's arms and looked at him timidly with a pair of eyes filled with love. "No matter what, I will not let Michael go," she thought as Olivia listened into her thoughts. "I will put in any effort required and do whatever I have to be the person next to him forever." "Not if I can help it," Olivia thought, smirking in the corner of the room. "I'm glad I'm here too." Michael had mixed feelings in his heart. He hated seeing Rachel like this, but also hated cutting his lovely dinner with his daughter in Victoria short. He felt it was hard to keep everyone happy. He looked at Rachel's face and sighed heavily. At that moment, a nurse came in from outside the door. "Mr. Johnson, you mentioned you wanted to fill out the release paperwork." "Ah, yes." Michael stood up and told Rachel, "I'll be back. Monica, take good care of your mother while I fill out her medical paperwork." He looked at Rachel's hand. She won't be able to with her hand like that. Yes, Father. Monica nodded obediently. I'll look after her. Michael left the ward and followed the nurse down the hall. Olivia stood at the door with a smile on her face. Wow, Rachel. You are so impressive, she said. I'm not as good as you. Rachel raised her eyes and looked at Olivia. She sat up straight, and although her face was still a little pale due to the loss of blood, her voice was full of confidence. She no longer had the weak and exhausted appearance she had just moments ago when Michael was present. Liv, you really are a calculated little girl, aren't you? After being close friends for so many years, Rachel knew Victoria's personality very well. Victoria never had a bad, duplicitous bone in her body. She would definitely not take the initiative to plan a meeting with Michael, let alone plan a home meal with him. And her husband, Michael, would never take the initiative to have anything to do with Victoria behind Rachel's back. Even in Michael's heart, he still had a place for Victoria. Victoria and Michael were both the same kind of people. They both saw the best in people and assumed everyone's intentions were good. That's how Rachel had successfully been able to manipulate them into having misunderstandings that led to their divorce. It was because she knew the two of them well enough, so she knew it must have been Olivia who had arranged for Michael and Victoria to have dinner together. Only she could really bring them together again after so many years. What did she do? Rachel wondered. Did she whine and claim she felt unloved or unseen or something stupid until they both agreed to get sushi with her? Ha ha ha, Olivia laughed. When she heard this, she knew that Rachel must have known about the gathering between Michael and Victoria. Rachel must have seen them. Wow, Olivia thought. Rachel is really playing this well, getting injured and then pretending to be the weak victim so my dad has to rush to her side and take care of her, forgetting all about my mom for the time being. All of Rachel's lines and tone were perfect. Even Monica was doing a good job and perfectly playing upon Michael's sense of guilt. Impressive, Liv thought. Truly impressive. Rachel, does it hurt? Olivia restrained her smile and asked. Of course it hurts. Rachel flashed a fake smile. How can it not hurt? Olivia heard Rachel's words and asked, Don't tell me it hurts more than your heart. The smile on Rachel's face froze. Olivia got very close to her and whispered, I would imagine that seeing the husband that you deliberately snatched and the woman he once loved most in the world alongside their daughter would cut very, very deep. God, that must be seared into your memory now, no? Olivia saw Rachel's expression, and she smiled and leaned forward. You know what I've learned? Whenever you have something that does not belong to you, eventually it goes back to where it belongs. Everything you have right now, it's only temporary. Oh? Rachel looked at Olivia's eyes, which were exactly the same as Victoria's, and felt anger rise up in her heart. Olivia was actually trying to help that whore-like mother of hers seduce their father. It wasn't okay. She'd call Olivia out in front of Michael, but then she'd have to admit she had seen them, and she didn't want Michael thinking she was keeping tabs on him. I actually feel that everything that happened between your father and mother and I was fated. Rachel shrugged casually. Your father and I knew we belonged together, and everything that happened for a reason. If we weren't supposed to be together, we would have ended long ago. It's been so long, and nothing has broken us yet. Olivia smiled. You are right. It has been so long. It's due time for someone to step in and help course correct, probably, isn't it? Rachel gritted her teeth and curled the corner of her mouth. Well, it's cute to dream, isn't it? But I suppose that girls your age do that. Daydream and fantasize about things that will never happen. She leaned forward and whispered coldly. You don't have it in you, Olivia. You don't have what it takes to come between your father and I. I think you're overestimating your ability, little girl. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if you're right, Olivia smiled. Luckily, I'm a little girl as you say, so I have plenty of time to prove you wrong. Olivia stood up after saying this and then looked at Monica. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and pity. Poor idiot. What did you just say? Monica raised her chin and met Olivia's eyes. This Olivia was really shameless. I'm talking about you, Olivia smiled and said. Monica, I really can't find someone more pitiful than you in the world. Today, she finally saw clearly. This Monica would only ever be Rachel's tool in the future, a woman who could be used by her mother whenever it served Rachel. Monica coldly snorted. You don't need to speak nonsense. Let me tell you, your dad left your mother, and he came back to care for my mom, which means that he loves my mom more. So no matter how despicable you are, you will only make yourself look like a clown. I'll take that under advisement, Olivia smirked. She didn't take Monica's provocation to heart at all. Instead, she laughed heartily. But if one day you suddenly call me and tell me that something happened to your beloved mother, it doesn't matter. I, too, will immediately drop whatever I'm doing and rush over, because you don't witness this kind of good thing every day. Monica's eyes went wide. Did she just threaten my mom? You, Rachel smeared. Hearing Olivia's curse, Rachel and her daughter's brows immediately furrowed. Olivia laughed, and then ignoring the mother and daughter, she walked out of the hospital room with a smile. As she walked, Olivia's smile gradually disappeared. Rachel and Monica's move was indeed very effective. It was enough to make Michael feel guilty for seeing Victoria. She watched as he privately made up his mind not to see Victoria again, for fear of hurting his own wife, Rachel. Damn it, Olivia thought. It seemed that she still had to plan for the future. No matter what, she had to bring Victoria back to the Johnson family mansion. She wanted to take back everything that originally belonged to Victoria. That was what her mother deserved. It would even be okay if my mom and dad didn't love each other, she thought. But I'm not blind. Today I saw it clearly. They clearly still loved each other deeply. And if that was the case, why did they divorce? What exactly happened 17 years ago? In the corridor, Olivia bumped into Michael, who had just returned from filling out Rachel's hospital discharge paperwork. Liv, what are you doing out in the hall? Michael asked. I just wanted to give Rachel a little time to rest and to let Monica be with her mom. Olivia shrugged. I could tell Monica was pretty shaken up, so I wanted to make sure she got some peace for a few minutes, away from prying eyes. I'll wait for you in the car. Michael looked at Olivia for a while before he reached out and patted her shoulder. Okay, we'll meet you back there in a little bit. He smiled. His daughter was really sensible and thoughtful of others, and he was very pleased. After returning home from the hospital, Rachel looked frail and weak. Her voice was soft and gentle, and even Monica obediently helped her mother with a subdued demeanor. Olivia coldly looked at the mother and daughter duo as they used all of their skills to put on an act so Michael would take pity on them and give them more attention. It was so ridiculous it was almost laughable. After enduring a full weekend of this behavior, Olivia was glad to return to school so she could focus her attention elsewhere. She was tired of Rachel and Monica's charades, so she welcomed any distractions. On Monday, Millie offered to tutor Olivia in study hall, and Olivia accepted. Every afternoon thereafter, Millie helped Olivia with homework, and Olivia listened very intently and even took notes. When she encountered something she did not understand, she would ask many questions as well. On Thursday afternoon, just as Millie was explaining the factors that led to the Industrial Revolution, a black shadow was cast on the table at which Millie and Olivia sat. Both girls looked up from their books, curious. Olivia, can I please talk to you? Francis stared at Olivia with some hesitation and unwillingness in his eyes. Okay. Olivia stood up hesitantly. It was the first time Francis took the initiative to speak to her after they had made their bet about the VR game days and days ago. After following Francis out of the study hall, the two of them went up the stairs, and Francis led Olivia to the rooftop of their building. It was already late fall. Standing on the rooftop, one could clearly feel the chill of autumn. Looking into the distance, one could even see Central Park from here. The golden leaves painted a beautiful picture. Seeing the calming scene, Olivia thought that it would be nice to take her dog Polly to the park for a stroll on the weekend. Francis was quiet, so as Olivia shivered, she asked, Francis, You didn't call me up here just to enjoy the breeze with me, did you? Francis looked at Olivia with a serious expression. How did you know I wouldn't get past the 3rd level of the VR game? What? She asked, stunned. The game still hadn't even come out. It was due to be released next week. The game we bet on. How did you know that there's a part in the 3rd level that's almost impossible to beat? It happened to me at the broken wall. How did you know about that? Olivia could read his thoughts and saw that he was thinking, this is the first time in all my video gaming that I've encountered such a difficult hurdle. It's been days, and I still can't pass level 3 even if I tried. Francis was clearly a man who was used to getting his way, and he couldn't stand when his plans were thwarted. I told you, I read about it online. Olivia shrugged. Is it possible you're just not that experienced as a gamer? Francis was naturally aggrieved by Olivia's question. I'm the best at VR games, he thought. He'd been feeling incredibly frustrated these last few days, especially after hearing Olivia ask this question. Francis's sense of loss instantly turned into a sense of defeat. It's the first time I've lost a level repeatedly since I was 6. I'm not willing to give up, though. Olivia's brow furrowed. How have you been playing for days? I thought the game isn't out yet. Francis's cheeks glowed. It isn't. My dad's friend knows the video game company and got me an advanced copy. He used his connections to get it. Of course, Olivia smiled frankly. Listen. Francis immediately took a step forward and asked nervously. I looked online for that forum you'd found, where you read about the level 3 problem, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Did you happen to know if anyone knows how to beat that level? I might, Olivia said. She could see that for Francis, playing VR games was his whole life. His confidence was shattered the last few days, simply because he couldn't get to the next level. He was extremely embarrassed, like he prided himself on his ability to play games. He wanted to one day run an entertainment empire with video games at the center. And if he himself couldn't beat them, then what right did he have to helm the throne of that empire? I don't understand it at all, Olivia thought. How can he place so much importance on a silly little game? Still, she knew she could use this information to her advantage. Okay, she said finally. If I show you how to beat the game, you have to do something for me. Oh? Francis cocked an eyebrow. How about this? Olivia curled her lips. If you worship me, I will tell you the secret to passing that level. She was just joking. It was Francis's fault for looking down on her in his previous life. In this life, she wanted to make Francis squirm a little. She wanted to see Francis in a dilemma. She sort of enjoyed it. Deal, Francis said. He was an earnest, straightforward guy, apparently, and when he gave his word, he meant it. It sort of surprised Olivia. I will honor this deal and consider you my greatest ally, he said completely seriously. Olivia smiled, amused. Is he serious? She wondered. God, he's socially awkward. Now, quickly tell me how to beat the game. I brought my VR headset, and I want to play it during study hall. Huh? Olivia was also stunned. No wonder Francis's grades were so bad. He was obsessed about gaming. She looked at his serious expression. Olivia wanted to tell him she was just joking about having to worship her, or consider her his greatest ally, but, seizing an opportunity, she said instead, Wait, we had a bet, didn't we? Olivia smirked. If I show you how to beat level 3, I want you to admit you were wrong, and I was right in front of the whole class. And I want that $1,000 you promised. Francis's eyes flickered. He thought of the humiliation and his stomach turned. But a bet is a bet, he thought, and I gave my word. Suddenly, Francis grabbed Olivia's wrist and began leading her downstairs with big steps. Hey, whoa, you're going too fast. Olivia was stunned and did not have time to react before she was forcefully taken away by Francis. Francis's steps were very large, and it was a little strenuous for Olivia to follow behind him. At the corner of the staircase, Chris Jones saw Olivia being dragged away by a boy. He frowned unhappily and quickly followed. Before Chris could catch up to them, Frances pulled Olivia back into the classroom where their study hall was taking place. "Let go of me!" Olivia shouted, and finally unclasped Frances's hand from her wrist after he stopped walking. She rubbed her aching wrist and frowned. Did he need to pull her so hard? Seeing Olivia being dragged into the classroom by Frances, Jeremy, who originally wanted to fall asleep on his desk while pretending to study, instantly perked up. He focused shrewdly on the two of them. What was going on? The entire classroom instantly quieted down, and everyone stared at the two of them. Their study hall teacher had stepped out to take a phone call, so there was no one to stop Frances or Olivia from standing in the front of the class, commanding everyone's attention. Everyone?" Frances took a deep breath and said loudly, I just wanted to apologize for what I said before, when I made my bet against Olivia. I guess I was being short-sighted, and I deserve to be called out. This new VR game, Fall of the Sun, from TK Games is honestly the best game I've ever played. The graphics and the stories are so superior to anything I've ever seen, and it's impossible to beat the third level, so I'm sorry. After saying that, Frances spun around his backpack so he could unzip it and take out his VR headset. Then he took out a wallet from his pocket, counted $1,000, and put it on the desk in front of him. I keep losing after the third level, but if Olivia can show me how to beat it, this is all hers, because she'll have proved she is really the superior gamer. Olivia was stunned. She reached out and took the VR goggles from Frances and put them on. Frances then handed her the controls from his backpack as well, and assembled the console in front of her. Then quickly, as others watched, she began playing. It didn't take her long for Olivia to beat the first two levels. She remembered how from her last life. The third level proved harder. Her character in the game lost some power but didn't die, and after a bit of effort, Olivia got to the section that Frances had been unable to pass. It proved difficult, but remembering the secret moves she had to perform, Olivia eventually beat the level. As soon as she saw the words, "Congratulations, you are moving on to level 4, she smiled and handed the headset and console back to Frances. All yours, she said with a smirk. She oozed confidence, and she saw into Frances's mind as he thought, God, she's beautiful right now. She's so cool and confident, and I really underestimated her. Whoa, she thought in disbelief. This was Frances, the Frances who had never looked up to her in her previous life. He actually apologized to her and even publicly bowed before her in front of so many people. Olivia had a confused look. What was Frances thinking? With this thought, she heard his voice in his head as he thought, as long as she can help me, I will have her back. This girl could clearly prove useful in the future. She's worth having in my corner. Maybe I really should worship her. Hearing Frances's thoughts, Olivia instantly blushed. She suddenly had a feeling that she should have found ways to help him more in her past life. Before she could say anything, he handed her the $1,000. I'll always keep my word, he said. When you won this fair and square, you're a worthy adversary. Frances nodded. Olivia smiled. You have no idea. Luckily, I get to have you as an ally instead, Frances replied. Yes, Olivia thought. Things were indeed turning out quite differently than they had in my last life. She couldn't be more pleased. People were sort of shocked to see Frances's sudden display of humility. They weren't expecting this new transfer student to suddenly declare that Olivia was superior to him in any way, especially since he'd basically spent the last few days telling everyone what a high-level gamer he was. Sam Feinstein was the first in the class to recover from the shocking revelation. Frances, I respect you for being a man and admitting your faults, Sam said loudly. The other boys in class followed suit and started to praise Frances's behavior too. Frances smiled. In a weird way, seeing how sincerely some of the guys in class admired his strong character, Frances started to feel accepted by his classmates. After receiving applause and praise from everyone, Frances, who was used to being isolated and a loner at all his past schools, was at a loss for what to do. This was a scene he had never experienced before. He scratched the back of his head awkwardly and his cheeks glowed red. He glanced at Olivia beside him and noticed her bright smile. The pair of eyes looking back at him were so clear and open-minded. He was actually a bit dazzled by Olivia's eyes. It's all thanks to her that I'm even being treated so well, he thought. His wariness towards Olivia had all but completely disappeared. When she showed me kindness by helping me get past that video game level, I was able to be vulnerable and thank her, and people seem to like that. Maybe this is the beginning of me opening up to people and finally making friends in my new school. While reading Frances's thoughts, Olivia couldn't help but smile to herself. Part of her was relieved. It's good to see that I'm able to befriend all of Pamela's old allies in my last life and make them my allies in this one, she thought, grinning wider. Now that Frances is on my side, I can go after Pamela even harder now. Soon, she'll have absolutely no one to turn to. Chris Jones, who had followed Olivia when she saw Frances dragging her through the hall from the roof, now stood outside the door to Olivia's study hall classroom, watching. He raised the corners of his mouth when he realized Olivia wasn't in trouble. No, on the contrary, she's being praised, he realized. This fiancée of mine is really something else, isn't she? Chris had a twinkle in his eye as he turned around and walked towards his own class. To his surprise, he found himself looking forward to school time lately, just so he could see what Olivia would get up to next. He was beginning to find her endlessly amusing. Jeremy, meanwhile, sat in his seat, his eyes narrowing as he watched Olivia. Her smile was beautiful, and she appeared carefree and casual. Her smile seemed to come from the bottom of her heart and was as dazzling as the first ray of sunlight in the morning, dispelling the darkness. Just like that, it was reflected in his eyes and in his heart. No, Jeremy thought, catching himself. No, what am I doing? I'm not supposed to think these things. Not about her. Jeremy didn't know what was going on with Olivia, but something about her was off. There was something dark about her, and he was afraid to admit he even liked her. But I'm afraid I can't shake my attraction either, he thought. It was only when their teacher returned from taking a phone call that Olivia and Frances returned to their seats. Pamela, who entered the classroom moments later after going to the bathroom, felt that the atmosphere in the classroom was different the moment she re-entered. But she could not tell what was different. When she returned to her seat, Pamela actually felt a trace of uneasiness deep inside her core. Earlier, her mother stopped by the school to see if Pamela wanted to go off campus for lunch. They chatted for a while, and Pamela made sure she was back in time before her next class began. But now, she wondered whether she had missed something at lunch that could account for the strange vibe in the classroom. At this time, Pamela was a little regretful about leaving. Why was Frances suddenly talking to all the boys like they were longtime friends? Why was Frances talking to Olivia back by their desks? What the hell was going on? Biting her lower lip, Pamela asked a girl with braids who sat to her right, "Did anything happen at lunch today?" "At lunch? Not that I'm aware of," Sally Alsbury, the braided girl, said. She was about to explain what Frances had just said in class, but the teacher cleared his throat, so Sally quickly stopped speaking. Pamela looked around anxiously and frowned. She wanted to know what had happened to change the energy in her class, especially because it involved Frances. But before she could inquire further, their teacher Adam walked to his lectern in the middle of the classroom. "Guys, can I have everyone's attention?" Once everyone went silent, he went on. "So listen, as you know, the school is very well connected. And since service is one of our 7 core tenets here, part of Marshall High's mission is to take part in various charitable events throughout the year. Well, this year, 2 of our school's biggest donors, Mr. and Mrs. Ira Vertigo, have asked us to participate in their biggest ever charity event, which is called the One World Climate Initiative Gala. You, as our students, will be paired with world-renowned fine art photographers to take photographed recreations of famous classical paintings. Everything from the Mona Lisa to American Gothic, plus a few original photographs." "Whoa," the students murmured. "I wonder if we will be working with celebrity photographers," one girl murmured. Yes, there will be a few of those as well. As I've said, the parents at the school are quite connected, so expect to see some big-name photographers." The students laughed as Adam continued. "And remember, this is an auction for charity, so everything will be tasteful and modest, and the work you will do will benefit many children." One girl raised her hand and asked, "So wait, how exactly does it work?" "Well, those who want to participate as class charity models just need to hand a photo over to me. Then you'll be paired with a professional photographer, and then the photos they take of you will be posted online to the One World Climate Initiative's ongoing online auction. People will be able to download copies of the photography art prints for $20 each. The student who is featured in the most popular photograph will then be considered Marshall High's campus model for this year and will attend the gala. The school will donate all the money for the sale of photos to the One World Climate Initiative to help fight climate change." Hearing this, the students started discussing the opportunity for a fun photo session in low voices. "And don't be shy, guys," Adam encouraged. "There are lots of photographs that will be taken, so we really want everyone to participate. Remember, this is also for the benefit of the public and the world at large. The deadline for submitting photos of yourself and registering to take part in this is next week. In the meantime, this weekend, everyone can go and take photos. I know you guys always take selfies when you have nothing to do anyway, so at least now you'll be taking photos with a professional for a cause." Everyone in the class laughed at this. Pamela couldn't help but smile either. Campus model, she thought. Who else could bear such a title other than me? If I became Marshall High's campus model and represented my school at a charity gala in front of all of Manhattan society, then I would definitely be able to make a name for myself. How could she miss such a good opportunity? Olivia heard Pamela's thoughts and secretly shook her head. This event had also been held in her previous life. Pamela won the competition back then because she was in the best-selling photograph at the auction. She had begged her parents to specially hire her own photographer, who wasn't even on the original list, and she made him photograph her over and over until finally she had a winning photograph. Each of her photos had a kind of reserved and elegant beauty, and she ended up winning the competition with her interpretation of Amir's Girl with the Pearl Earring. Olivia had also participated in this competition in her last life, but she didn't fare as well as Pamela. Unfortunately, her photographer had used real film instead of a digital camera, and something happened during the processing of the film, so all her images came out overexposed and unsuitable. The photographer was a professional with years of experience under his belt and swore that he had nothing to do with it. He had never had a problem exposing his film before. He insisted he had been sabotaged, but nobody paid him any attention. Even Olivia at the time was sure he was just embarrassed that he had messed up such an important item for such a high-profile cause. The only photo that did come out was so exposed Olivia looked like a ghost with a huge beam of light flashing on her. So everyone began ridiculing her and calling her Ghost Girl. Looking back, she knew she had been set up. She wasn't sure if it was Pamela, or perhaps even her sister Monica, but Olivia was sure someone had intentionally destroyed her images to humiliate her. Never again, she vowed, thinking of how she would do things differently this time. She didn't want to recall her dark history at all anymore. In this life, she decided she wouldn't even participate in the competition and would instead focus on getting revenge in other ways. Besides, if she really wanted to do her best to benefit the charity, then she would just buy a few more photos of other people and help by donating more. Jeremy looked at Olivia and asked, "Are you going to participate?" Hearing Jeremy take the initiative to talk to her, Olivia was stunned. She looked at him. She did not directly answer him, but shook her head and laughed self-deprecatingly. "I'm hardly a model. I think I'll leave that to the professionals and the girls who are obsessed with taking selfies all day." "Probably for the best," Jeremy said. He couldn't admit it, but it was better if Olivia didn't participate, so he wouldn't have to look at her photos plastered everywhere. He already had a hard enough time keeping his gaze off her anyway. What the hell is wrong with me? He tried to resist his growing crush, but he started to think Olivia was a seductive siren who had a mysterious, dangerous streak lurking underneath. He couldn't quite pinpoint what it was, but he could see the viciousness and ambition beneath her appearance. He wondered if anyone else saw it too. Curiosity and his classmates. The driver was in a dilemma, not knowing what to do. Jeremy naturally didn't know how his driver was feeling. He was too focused on his conflicting feelings about Olivia, and by association, about Chris Jones. One thing was sure. He wanted to know way more about both of them. About an hour later, Olivia and Chris returned in one of her father's cars to the Johnson family mansion. Although there had been little warning, the servants had gotten to work primping and cleaning the house, so by the time Olivia arrived, everything looked pristine. When Olivia and Chris entered the living room, Rachel was already dressed in a gorgeous Chanel dress and was sitting on the sofa inside. Grandpa Jack was not home today, and Michael was not back yet from work. So, as the head of the family, Rachel naturally took it upon herself to welcome Chris. Seeing the two of them walk in, Rachel stood up and fixed a fake smile on her face. "Chris, please take a seat." Chris nodded and sat on the sofa beside him. He looked at Rachel's bandaged left hand. Rachel noticed Chris's gaze and smiled. "I accidentally hurt myself on Friday." "Is that so?" He looked at Olivia. Olivia nodded. "She claims she cut her hand," Olivia said before taking Chris's bag. "Here, let me hang your bag up for you in the hall." In an effort to change the subject away from her injury, Rachel ordered her maids to serve tea while Olivia disappeared into the hall with Chris's backpack. Chris looked at Rachel and asked, "Is your father-in-law not home?" He came this time to find Jack, though he hadn't said so. "He will be back in about an hour and a half." Rachel smiled and nodded her head. In her heart, she wished Monica had come back earlier from shopping with friends, so she had time to prepare for Chris's arrival, too. Just as Rachel thought this, Monica waltzed in through the front door. Once she entered, she saw Chris sitting on the side sofa. Her heartbeat instantly became chaotic. "Chris, why are you here?" Monica walked to see Chris with joy and excitement, but also with embarrassment because she was still in her uniform, and she had her hair pulled back, and she would have changed had she known he would be here. "Monica, don't be so rude." Rachel scolded her daughter for displaying such an obvious lack of composure. "Quickly go to your room and put down your school bag." From the hallway, Olivia's heart fluttered. She heard Monica say, "Okay, Mom," and head up the stairs to her room. This is my chance, Olivia thought, unable to resist following Monica. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do, but she suddenly had a deep, desirous urge to hurt her little half-sister for deviously trying to interrupt Olivia's dinner with her mom and dad the other night. Olivia scurried up the back staircase so nobody would see her following her half-sister. Her plan was to slink into the hallway behind Monica unnoticed, just before she got to her room. Then, when Monica walked into her room and slammed her door closed behind her, Olivia would use her powers to keep Monica's hand in her doorway, so the door slammed the tips of Monica's fingers, leaving a bloody mess of Monica's perfectly manicured nail beds. A small, simple little piece of revenge, but something to scratch the itch nonetheless. Unfortunately, when Olivia got to the top of the back staircase, she ran straight into a maid. "Oh, so sorry, miss," the maid said, as she bent forward to pick up the pile of towels she dropped. "No, you're okay, it's my fault," Olivia smiled. She felt bad running into this maid like this. It certainly wasn't the poor woman's fault. She had only been doing her job. "Here, let me help you." Olivia crouched down and refolded the towels before helping the maid pick them up again. "Sorry again," Olivia curtsied. "Have a good night." "You too, miss." The maid smiled, touched. It was rare for the Johnsons to speak directly to her. Rarer still for them to be so kind. She treasured the interaction because of this. By the time Olivia reached Monica's room afterwards, Monica had already closed her door. Inside, she could hear that Monica was thinking of what to put on to try and impress Chris Jones. It's no use, Olivia thought, giving up on her plan. She'd have to seek revenge on Monica some other way tonight or tomorrow, or whenever the next opportunity presented itself. For now, she had to return downstairs. She didn't like the thought of leaving Rachel alone with Chris for too long, so she turned and quickly retreated down the staircase. Actually, she thought, pivoting, I should stop at my room first. Meanwhile, in her own bedroom, Monica ran a comb through her hair in front of her mirror. Then she opened her wardrobe to change into another set of clothes, because the first outfit she changed into already looked too frumpy. After walking around in circles, trying on at least 6 different skirts, and then 4 different shirts, and then deciding she looked better in a sundress, despite it already being fall, she hurriedly ran downstairs again. When she was on the last step of the stairs, she stretched out her hand to straighten her long hair and pulled the hem down on her dress to make sure it was even and unwrinkled. Finally, she felt ready to re-enter the room and greet Chris. Chris watched Monica appear in the living room and walked to the sofa to sit beside Rachel. Monica was trying to glide in like a pageant queen or something, but it came off awkward and clunky, bringing a smile to his lips. Olivia had not yet returned, though, and he wondered where she was. "Mom, why didn't you say in advance that Chris Jones was here?" Monica asked her mom. If she had known, she wouldn't have entered the house as rashly and sweaty as before. "He just arrived." Rachel patted Monica, who was holding her arm. In truth, Rachel had forgotten to text her daughter to warn her, because she herself had been so busy rushing to get the house ready for his arrival. If Chris thought the flowers or the food or the decor weren't up to par, he would definitely report that back to his own family, and it would be Rachel who would look bad. Besides, she knew her daughter was prone to overreacting and making big deals over nothing. So Rachel figured she didn't want her daughter to get too anxious before coming home. It was easier to just send Monica upstairs to change than to field 800 text messages about what she should wear and what she should say ahead of time. "Chris, you came this time to see—" Monica trailed off, hoping he would finish her sentence, though her eyes revealed a trace of expectation. Could he have come to see her? Chris picked up his teacup from the coffee table and took a sip, but he did not have any intention of answering. A silence hung in the air, amusing Chris. Rachel saw this and found a way to help Monica. Actually, young Chris here came to see your grandfather this time. "Oh," Monica replied and looked at Chris with burning eyes. Still, she couldn't understand why a guy as hot and as available and well-connected as Chris would ever agree to an engagement with a poor, ratty charity case like Olivia. Why? Monica thought. It's unfair. I'm the rightful oldest Miss Johnson. Rachel felt a headache coming on when she saw her daughter's intensifying scowl. Why did Monica do this? "Chris, dinner will be ready in a while. My chef's cooking is very excellent, so I think you'll enjoy it." With a sweet voice, Monica didn't care about Chris's cold shoulder at all. She continued to think of ways to talk to Chris. "Do you have any dishes that you like to eat?" Chris put the teacup back on the coffee table, and a trace of displeasure appeared in his eyes. Where did Olivia go? Why was she so slow? Suddenly, a dog barked and ran around the corner before jumping into Chris's arms. "Polly?" Seeing Polly, Chris smiled. He reached out and rubbed Polly's head. "I haven't seen you for less than half a month, but you've gotten a lot fatter than last time." He let out a joyful laugh. "That's right," Olivia nodded and said confidently, like a proud mom, as she appeared in the living room. She sat by Chris. "I may have fed her a little bit extra." Chris looked up and saw Olivia had changed into a cotton dress. The corner of his mouth rose. Did she go upstairs and change especially for him? "Polly, come here quickly." Olivia waved her hand. Polly happily barked and ran to sit by Olivia's leg. First, it rubbed its head against Olivia's calf, then jumped nimbly into Olivia's arms. It laid down and raised its neck, occasionally letting out sweet whimpers like it was asking for love. Olivia reached down and stroked its fur. "Little Polly is becoming more and more clingy now," she shrugged, "and I love it." I see that. Chris nodded. How old is she now? Olivia calculated. Almost 5 months. In fact, I have to take her to the vet to get a checkup soon, so I can give her all her shots. I will go with you, Chris volunteered. Olivia was taken aback. Was Chris offering to spend way more time with her lately, or was it just in her imagination? She twitched her mouth, flattered. Are you sure? I can definitely go alone, because it's not a super fun errand. I also have a dog, Monica piped in, not wanting to watch Olivia and Chris's interaction, as though she wasn't even here. A jealousy rose in her heart, and she added, It's a Maltese dog. It has won an international championship award. Chris looked blankly at Monica like he was not interested, which made Rachel grow red with anger. Clearly, I still have to teach my poor daughter how to get male attention and keep it, she thought. The atmosphere grew more awkward. Olivia petted Polly for a moment and then said, Polly's a champion cuddler. She smiled at Chris. But yeah, if you want to come with us to the vet, it's a date. She relished saying it's a date in front of Monica because she knew how envious it made her half-sister. And if she was being honest, Olivia was sort of happy to have Chris accompany her into the city for her vet appointment because he did make her feel safe ever since he helped her fight off a would-be assassin. It never hurt to have Rachel hear Olivia wouldn't be traveling places solo from now on. Chris looked at Olivia and Polly while drinking his tea. Monica's eyes grew darker, and her jealousy bubbled up within her more and more. Her hands twisted together in her lap, and her eyebrows furrowed. Even Rachel noticed and felt bad that she had failed to find her daughter a suitor yet, let alone someone as good as Chris Jones. This awkward atmosphere continued until Michael came back. Michael also noticed the subtle atmosphere as soon as he came in, but he did not say anything. He just smiled brightly, ignoring the tension, and said, Chris Jones, welcome to my humble abode. Mr. Johnson, how are you? Chris stood up as a form of respect for Olivia's father. Please take a seat. Michael smiled. Rachel went up to take Michael's briefcase and passed it to the maid. She held Michael's arm, and the two of them sat on the sofa. Then she softly said, Everything okay at work? You were a little late today. There's a traffic jam on the bridge. Michael smiled and patted Rachel's arm. How's your hand today? It's okay, but you don't have to worry about me, honey. It'll heal. Rachel smiled and glanced at Olivia before looking at her husband. Monica saw the loving conversation between her parents, and her face was full of pride. She raised her chin to look at Olivia and then smiled. Daddy, did you have a hard day today? She looked at Olivia as if to say, Do you see this? We are the happy family. You're just some extraneous interloper who doesn't belong in this happy picture, loser. It wasn't too bad, Michael smiled. At least it wasn't any worse than usual. For the past few days, Olivia had been sick of watching Rachel and Monica do this. They were playing the part of the sweet, innocent mother-daughter duo, when really they were rotten, bullying, calculated women. How did Michael not see it yet? Olivia sensed he was starting to, but she wouldn't be satisfied until he saw it fully. Seeing Olivia's expression and coldly observing Rachel and Monica's actions, Chris opened his mouth and said, A few days ago, Liv was injured and has not fully recovered yet, and I'm noticing now Rachel is also injured. Her mansion. Chris glanced around. Is there some sort of curse here that makes people get hurt? Hearing this, Rachel and Michael's expressions melted into looks of concern. Who would say that? Michael smiled awkwardly, figuring Chris was just trying to make a joke. He said, No, I fear we're far too uncool for anyone to waste their time cursing us. It's just good old-fashioned bad luck. And it's just a coincidence that our little mishaps seem to be squeezed together. Really? What a coincidence indeed, Chris replied sharply. Those who didn't know any better would think that Rachel got injured on purpose to take attention away from Olivia. Me? Rachel's eyes showed obvious anger and guilt, though she quickly hid it from Michael. Chris really loves to joke, doesn't he? she said in an accusatory tone to Olivia. That's me, a regular jokester. Chris smiled. I like to tease people. I find it enlivens conversation. Good one, Monica panicked, still stuck on Chris's accusation. How could my mother do it on purpose for real, though? I saw with my own eyes that my mother's hand was cut really deeply when she fell. That was an accident. How could it be on purpose? Chris and Olivia exchanged a look. Moronic little Monica really didn't have a brain at all. Rachel was so scheming. How could she have such a stupid daughter like Monica? Hearing Monica cover up like this, Rachel's heart skipped a beat. She immediately looked up at Michael and met her husband's suspicious eyes. This glance wasn't enough. There was no need to explain anymore. Suddenly, Michael already knew what was going on. He moved his hand away from Rachel's arm. His expression was obviously a little unnatural. Seeing his thoughts, Olivia smiled. Wow, she thought. He's finally seen it for himself. Michael said nothing. He just stood up and moved towards the hallway. Then, before exiting, he turned towards Chris, then beckoned to everyone with a wave of his arm and sternly muttered, "Let's eat." During a long, uncomfortable meal, Monica remained oblivious to the fact that she had clued in on Rachel's scheming. Throughout the dinner, she actively sought a topic to engage in conversation with Chris, only to be disregarded by him. She pouted. Michael, meanwhile, remained silent. Meanwhile, Rachel, flustered, surreptitiously observed Michael from the corner of her eye. He's acting like he knows I cut myself on purpose, she thought nervously. The taste of the food in her mouth was overshadowed by a profound bitterness. The only one enjoying the meal was Olivia, who even fed 2 ribs to her dog lying beside her feet. Why is she humming so happily? Rachel thought disdainfully. That little witch. Chris Jones had originally intended to discuss something with Michael and his father, Jack, that evening. But upon seeing Michael's sour expression, he too refrained from speaking. No amount of easy joking looked like it could break through Michael's gruff exterior at the moment. After the meal, Chris arranged for one of his drivers to immediately pick him up instead. Once Chris left, the suppressed tension in the house finally erupted. Sensing that things were coming to a boiling point, Olivia tactfully retreated to her room. She didn't need to wonder about what would unfold next. No, this time she would let it all happen without her, and she would take the opportunity to sit on her bed and practice listening in on others' thoughts from further away to see if she could hear them. It would be like viewing the spectacle remotely. Chris is so handsome, Monica exclaimed in the dining room, sitting in her chair, face lit up with infatuation. When will he visit again? Olivia cursed. She couldn't hear anyone's thoughts from this far away, only their voices. Fine, she thought. Then I'll work on my other power, she thought. She had to practice getting better at using her power in the spur of the moment, and when under stress, since that proved difficult before. I need to figure out how to be able to concentrate and use them at a moment's notice, and when my adrenaline's pumping and it's hard to focus. She couldn't let anything like what had happened back at the track meet happen again if she was going to continue using her powers. Okay, she thought, focusing on the textbooks strewn about her desk. She would concentrate until she could fling one of them from the desk without even touching or moving the others. 1, 2, 3. As Olivia focused all her attention on sharpening her powers, Michael coldly looked at his other daughter downstairs. Monica, return to your room, he ordered. Oh, okay. Monica couldn't comprehend why her father's demeanor had suddenly grown dark and gloomy. Subconsciously, she glanced at Rachel, who also appeared somewhat unusual. Then she stood up and slowly made her way back to her room. Only Michael and Rachel remained in the dining room. You caused the injury to your hand yourself, Michael stated, not as a question, but as a confirmation. His words dripped with anger towards his wife for resorting to such means to deceive him. Yes, Rachel admitted, withholding nothing at this point. Why lie now? Why did you do this? Michael felt a tinge of sorrow and disbelief. Why? Rachel raised her head, locking eyes with Michael. Sweetheart, when I took our daughter to the city to get a backpack, and I witnessed you, Victoria, and Liv happily dining together, what do you think I felt? Michael fell silent upon hearing her words. He hadn't expected this response. He didn't realize his wife had seen him with Victoria. He gazed at Rachel, realizing how terrible she must have felt. Did I have any other choice? Rachel let out a bitter laugh. When I called, you didn't mention Victoria, yet I saw you with her. How else would I know if you would even come to see me? I didn't think you would ever lie to me. You have changed, Michael observed. His wife appeared somewhat unfamiliar to him, colder somehow, more calculated. I have changed? Rachel looked back at Michael. Had she changed? No. She had always been the type to do anything to achieve her goals. It was only Michael who was changing, perhaps discovering this about her, but so what? During dinner, Rachel had already contemplated her options. There was still room for negotiation. Okay, fine, let's say I have changed, Rachel declared, meeting Michael's gaze head-on. When my role transitioned from simply your wife to being a wife and mother, I changed. I have become more protective over my children's futures, and therefore over my household. And perhaps that sometimes makes me cautious and self-centered and afraid of losing my husband, afraid of my children losing their father, afraid of losing our complete family. Michael peered at Rachel, gradually easing his eyes. She began to force herself to cry. Sweetie, maybe I'm truly scared. I'm terrified that you'll abandon us. Rachel wept, throwing herself into Michael's arms. Since I was young, I've known that Victoria surpasses me in every aspect. Whatever she does, she excels. She's intelligent, beautiful, confident. She's perfect. Rachel spoke softly. From an angle invisible to Michael, her eyes grew increasingly fierce. It was because of this. It was because of Victoria's perfection that she despised her so intensely. Don't dwell on it, Michael comforted his wife, placing his hand on Rachel's back. Michael, sensing Michael's warm touch, a faint smile formed on Rachel's lips. She had won yet again for now. Concealing the triumph in her eyes, she looked up at him, feigning grievance and restraint. If you truly can't let go of Victoria, then I'm willing to let you bring her back into your life. Not as a romantic partner, but if you need her in your life, I will let you see her, so long as you are honest with me and you don't betray me. I'm willing to compromise, as long as you don't cast me aside, as long as you allow me to stay by your side every day. No, please, I'm sorry I ever made you feel this way, Michael interrupted, pressing his hand against Rachel's lips. Say no more. A pang of discomfort gripped his heart. He felt conflicted, blaming himself. 17 years ago, he lost the woman he loved most, and the intervening years and circumstances that occurred after that kept him and Victoria apart. He was forced to move on, and since then he had learned to never look back. He had learned to love his situation he currently found himself in. Did he now want his current wife Rachel to feel the way Victoria once had? Did he want her simply to compromise for his sake? That was utterly unacceptable. If that were the case, could he still call himself a man? Could he even consider himself human? Sweetheart, Rachel's eyes welled up with tears as she clung to Michael once more. Don't leave me. Her words resonated from the depths of her heart. She would never allow Michael to leave her. For 17 years, she had stood by a man who didn't hold her in his heart, and she had always privately knew it. But at least she knew he was by her side. That was enough. Even if she couldn't possess his heart, she would possess him. Embracing his wife, Michael closed his teary eyes. A beautiful figure emerged in his mind. Her voice and image, once crystal clear, gradually blurred. He would never see Victoria again. He vowed to himself. Ultimately, they had missed their chance. The next morning, Olivia descended the stairs triumphantly. She had spent half the night practicing and honing her powers, and she felt more confident that she would be able to use them not only in crowds, but also under duress and in very stressful, high-intensity situations. I can't wait for my next opportunity to test them out, she thought. When she reached the bottom step, she heard Rachel's laughter. It exuded confidence, indicating her victory in her little battle with Michael the previous day. A slight smile formed at the corner of Olivia's mouth. This was exactly what she had long anticipated. She wasn't worried because Rachel's arrogance and complacency could now be exploited, especially now that Olivia felt even more powerful than before. At the dining table, Monica resumed her usual attempts to provoke others. However, every provocative remark was met with a sharp retort from Olivia. It stifled the anger brewing within Monica. After breakfast, the girls set off for school, and Olivia decided to practice using her powers on Monica. She thought very hard about something that scared her, being chased by an unknown assailant, and then, when her heart raced, she immediately shifted her concentration to their driver. Just when Monica was applying some mascara, Olivia used her powers to tug the wheel to the left, causing the whole car to suddenly jerk and swerve in that direction. "Ow!" Monica called out. "Sorry," their driver said. "My hand must have slipped." Monica rubbed her eye. The swerve caused her to poke the sensitive skin of her eyelid, and now she had makeup smeared everywhere. Olivia cracked a smile. "Still got it," she thought. She was getting better at focusing her powers, even in situations where her adrenaline was pumping. 30 minutes later, when she arrived at Marshall High's front gate, Olivia was intercepted by Pamela. "Olivia, are you going to participate in the campus model competition for auction at the One World Climate Initiative Gala?" Pamela's eyes bore a hint of speculation and calculation. "Nah, I'm not interested," Olivia replied, scanning Pamela from head to toe. "Do you plan to participate? I thought only really self-centered people do that." "Ha, good one," Pamela replied, raising her hand to tuck her hair behind her ear, a smile playing on her lips. "I actually think it's admirable to contribute to the well-being of the public, so helping charities is, really important to me." "Right, I bet." Olivia's eyes gleamed mischievously. "Then just remember to bid on your own photos, I guess, so you have a chance to go to the gala." Since Pamela was so fond of masquerading as a paragon of virtue, Olivia had no qualms about lending her a hand. After all, it's all for the benefit of the public. Good luck, Pamela. I have high hopes for you. With that, Olivia gracefully sidestepped Pamela and made her way towards her locker. As she entered class, Olivia's encounter with Pamela lingered in her mind. A faint smile still graced the corner of her lips. She was busy thinking of all the ways in which she could use her powers on Pamela. Tiny humiliations could only bring her so much joy for so long. Soon, she would have to graduate to something more consequential.